Well, ladies and gentlemen, here we are. Another week, another start to a new week. Hopefully all is well for the viewers out there. Thank you again for stopping by. But much like I said on my last video with you guys, where I told you the new start to the new week would bring more panic, more crisis, more destruction, more job loss, more layoffs, more hiring freezes. I am not a fortune teller. I do not have a crystal ball. However, I do pay attention to market trends. I do pay attention to the news. I do pay attention to things that most folks, more than likely, either two reasons. One, they don't have time to keep up with it all, or two, they prefer not to. Because honestly, trying to stay abreast to the most recent information while trying to connect the dots and calculate the next move, it can be a daunting task with a lot of, let's just not beat around the bush. It can scare the shit out of you, okay? There's a lot of fear associated with what is to come because for the most part, nobody knows what happens next. Nobody knows what's coming next. And this video here, look, if you are literally anybody out there in the world, if you are an employee, if you're an employer, if you are self-employed, if you're a business owner, if you're an investor, no matter who you are, pretty much where you live, this message is for you. And it doesn't matter what stage of your prep you're at either. Whether you've got a boatload of cash stockpile, whether you've got a ton of investments, whether you have cryptocurrency and stocks in your portfolio, whether you've invested in real estate or you're amongst the large portion of the U.S. population that are renting, which guilty, we're renting also. But the question is, are you renting because you want to, or are you renting because you have to? Are you renting because you can't afford a home? Are you renting because you don't qualify for a mortgage or you don't have the cash to buy one? Or are you renting because you prefer to and or it's specific to a job situation or an employment situation, much like a lot of the folks that live where we live, they're military. So for them to purchase a home where they're stationed doesn't make a lot of sense because they know there's only a matter of time before they can be relocated or deployed somewhere else. But it comes down to, are you stuck or are you in control? And unfortunately, for at least 10,000 people, they're not in control. And this is exactly what I was talking about yesterday. The start of the new week was guaranteed to bring pain. The start of the week was guaranteed to bring job loss, layoffs, folks' savings accounts being wiped out, people backed into corners. A lot of these folks probably are those that did not have a huge backup plan. They didn't have a strategy. They were not prepared. They did not have money in savings. They don't have investments. They only had one stream of income. They have no other income stream. They have no side hustles. They have no passive income. They have nothing else on the horizon besides two things. One, go get a new job. Two, file for unemployment, which I actually want to ask you folks a question. Please be honest. I'm really curious to know, if you were to lose your job tomorrow, if you were to lose your primary source of income tomorrow, how quickly could you replace it? How quickly could you replace it and equal to or greater than your current income? Just kind of curious, trying to get a gauge. We got a lot going on. What we hear and what we see from the news, from the media outlets, from these companies, from these businesses, unless you're directly involved with it, it's old news. Because by the time we hear it, we're only hearing it because it happened. You see what I'm saying? So we need to be several steps ahead of any possible future outcome, any possible future interruption or obstacle or crisis or pandemic or whatever the case may be that could ultimately put us in a position to see our families wiped out, see our finances and savings accounts and savings balances wiped out, let alone dealing with the banks and trying to get your money from the banks, which the banks don't have the money, nor do they want to allow you access to it. This is a growing problem. Not to mention, folks, we have a seriously disturbing development. Again, this is after the fact news. Seriously disturbing development going on with this Sam Bankman-Fried, SBF, and FTX and FTX.us and FTX.com and Alameda Research, and some serious complications and intricacies going on with some manipulations of money tied to government spending, tied to, get this, Ukraine. We need to talk about that. We're going to talk about that on a separate video. But again, that is news after the fact. This news is already done. It's over with. If you're hearing about it now and you were involved, it's too late. If you're hearing about it now and you were involved and you didn't have a plan after the fact that you can initiate now and engage and execute on, it's too late. Because by the time you hear it, it's over with. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, Kevin, if there's so much corruption going on with the government and with these businesses and with these organizations and with these shadow groups and with these folks out here that literally want to see us all destroyed, how could something like FTX be in the news with prosecutors and investigators, digging through and getting this information and trying to piece it all together? How could that possibly happen? Well, see, the way it works is, you guys may be familiar with professional sports, and professional sports have, in a game, there's two different teams. There's opponents. Now, the opponents have strategies. They have playbooks. They're both trying to win the same game, but there can only be one winner. However, sometimes the players on the teams get traded, so they could be playing against teammates. Sometimes the coaching staff could be, could have a job change, and they could be playing against a team that they had previously worked for. And you got folks out there that are betting against their own team, doing things needing to be done to make sure that they lose so that they personally win. And then it's like, well, if you look at it, it's not necessarily as clear and cut and dry as one may think, because everybody individually is trying to win despite the team that they're on. So they may go against their own team. They may try to cheat the other team. But at the end of the day, themselves are trying to win personally. And if they can take down someone else to improve their chances of winning, they definitely will do it. So in a situation like FTX and seeing all these other entities getting involved to try to rein this all in, and then hammer down on all the parties involved through these illegal activities and theft and mismanagement and manipulation of funds and gambling of folks' investments and livelihoods and life savings. It's not because they're just good people, and they're there's a handful. It's like 1% that's good people. The other 99% are doing what they can do to crush the other guy so that they can step on their back as they climb up the ladder, basically. Now, as far as the folks that, ultimately weren't prepared for what they were waking up to this Monday morning, just recently announced Amazon is laying off 10,000 employees. 10,000 employees. We just covered this. We just reported more layoffs from Walmart, more layoffs from Bed Bath & Beyond, more layoffs across the board. A lot of different retail sectors, a lot of different retail companies in the retail market. We know that consumer budgets are tight, money is tight, folks don't have savings, people are getting laid off, inflation is still a problem. Interest rates are higher, so it means borrowing money and charging on credit cards it's a terrible move. But at the end of the day, these companies are realizing that, one, this holiday season is going to suck. It's going to suck for them. Their numbers are going to be in the toilet. And the buyers and consumers don't have it like they used to. And the ones who do are not blowing it on Amazon and Walmart and shopping online. With the ones who have it, you know what they're doing? I'll tell you what they're doing. They're investing. They're buying businesses. They're buying assets. They're buying cash flow producing assets. They're getting involved. They're staying involved in real estate. They are progressing. They're not sitting here shopping for Amazon Prime Day deals. You see what I'm saying? But when you see a big company, a corporation like Amazon announce in the middle of November that they're laying off 10,000 employees, 10,000 workers are going to be without a job, that tells you something. That should be a huge red flag and an alert of a warning that, shit, you better get ready. You better be prepared. If you ain't, you better hurry up. If you've been procrastinating this entire time, you better hurry up. Which brings me to one of the beauties of what I get the opportunity to do on a daily basis, and is engage and communicate with folks that are trying to prepare. And I love it, especially for the ones who are actually putting forth the effort and doing versus wishing. Because if you wish for something, that doesn't mean that you're actively pursuing and taking the steps needed that are necessary to achieve the goals that you have set out for yourself. I want this to be motivation for the people watching. I want this to be motivation for anybody that you share this video with. I want this to encourage people to take the steps and do what's hard when it's easy. Ignore the haters. Ignore mainstream media. Ignore anybody who tells you don't do it. It's a bad idea. You can't. It'll never work. Just don't try. Give up. Quit. No. I want you to say to yourself, I can. Because I actually had a new member of the group, which, thank you guys. I really appreciate you joining the group. Link down in the description. I actually just put up a short today for the group that I want you guys to check out. And it's a really cool short because I want to see more creators making shorts. YouTube actually just made an announcement that they have some big changes for shorts that they're rolling out in January and February that creators are going to want to know about. Creators are going to want to know about this. So I put that up. Go check it out. Really cool. Really, really, really cool for the members. So a member joined and sent me an email. He shot me an email and he said, Kevin, I work for a fast food restaurant. I feel as though I am different than my immediate family. I feel as though I'm different from my circle of friends, so to speak. And I'm paraphrasing this email because I don't have it in front of me. But basically, he says, I work for a fast food restaurant. I don't make a lot of money, but I'm watching you. I'm subscribed. I joined the group, and I'm wanting to learn and understand and figure out how I can prepare myself for SHTF while also increasing my income, putting away savings, building investments, and generating passive streams of income, multiple streams of income. And I'm thinking to myself, man, this is amazing. No, despite what you do, where you live, who you may think you are, or who people around you may want you to believe you are, or try to define you as, you're seeing through that, and you're taking the steps to say, let me reach out to somebody who apparently seems like has succeeded in many ways and is putting himself out there for us. Let me just give it a try. Because, at the same time, I get a lot of people to say, who are you? What are your credentials? Why are you here? Your videos are boring. You never get to the point. You take too long to say things. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, if I were to sit here and make a video that said, this is how I made $1 million, one, YouTube wouldn't promote it, so y'all would never see it. And two, for the people who did see it, the subscribers who did have notifications turned on, they probably wouldn't watch it. So the problem with that is if I just tell you how, it's like, okay, I invested my time, I increased my knowledge, I grinded hard, I chose to work instead of sleep, and I doubled down on investments, I made smart moves, I took some risks, and I've made $1 million. I could do that, but then it's like, it's not really effective. Whereas if I can explain to you the entire story, when I get to the end where I wrap it up and in conclusion break that down to you, then it all makes sense. It's like trying to watch a movie and ending it in the middle and just saying, well, the movie never got to the point. No, the movie was telling a story the entire time. And the point is collectively the entire movie. And, anyway, I'm getting distracted here. I'm getting off topic. But the simple fact of the matter is that folks out there need to take the steps necessary to put themselves where they want to be, not keep themselves where they feel they're stuck at. And for someone to work fast food, making minimum wage, and taking the time, effort, and energy to invest in themselves to achieve the goals that are possible, that's what it's all about. Because at any given time, that fast food worker could be unemployed, much like the 10,000 employees at Amazon that just lost their jobs today, or at least got notice that they're going to be losing their jobs, or could be one of 10,000 that will lose their jobs, and then saying, oh, what am I going to do now? Well, then it's too late. Then it's too late. Folks right now, they don't have money to hold them over in time of need, in an emergency. Folks are living paycheck to paycheck. They're barely getting by. And if you lose your job, maybe you get a severance package. Maybe you can pick up a little bit of unemployment. But honestly, you're going to run through that so quickly. And then you got to think, I just lost my job along with 9,999 other people. Now I'm fighting with them to get the next job, which obviously probably isn't really available if Amazon's making such a drastic cut. And even if it were available, I spoke to a young man 2 days ago. And, I was asking him about his employment choice, and he told me that in order for him to have an opportunity at earning a decent income, he needed to travel 1 hour each way with his commute, because in the town that he lives in, there's no opportunity besides very low paying opportunities, which are very few and far between. And other than that, you have nepotism where you needed to pretty much work for your daddy. And, he says, I'm not interested in either one of those. One of them's not even an option. So I chose to find a way to make more money, which included a 1 hour commute each way. So 2 hours a day. 2 hours a day right now. When we're at the height of tourism and tourist season, spring, summer, then it's probably going to be an hour and a half each way, which is just this traffic. And, I'm really interested to see how tourism plays out in 2023 and how people are choosing to spend their money and spend their time, and how it may have an effect on the local businesses and the short-term rental properties and everything else that is involved with that. It's in addition to that, local city and county revenues that are dependent upon these tourists, and, that are keeping these municipalities funded, where you don't want to see the city that you live in, the county that you live in, go bankrupt. Like, you don't want to see that happen. Folks, that is a terrible thing, and it hurts so many people, especially those that, some folks were relying on pensions, and then, if the municipality, the government, the city, the county, or whatever, the state, they go bankrupt, it's like, man, there goes your pension. There goes your retirement. I hope you had a backup plan. And that's what I'm talking about. It's not just, let me just cut to the chase and say this is exactly what happened, because it's full spectrum. It's the whole picture. And I'm not necessarily trying to do this to be entertaining. I'm only doing it to share my story with you folks, and hopefully it resonates with you. And it helps educate you and teach you and help you along with your preparation, so that you don't find yourself in a situation perhaps like some of the other emails and messages I receive from folks that are literally kind of on life's edge because everything has pretty much fallen apart for them, and they didn't do anything beforehand, and now they have no clue as to where to go from here. And I don't want that to happen to me. I don't want it to happen to anybody I know. I don't want it to happen to you guys. So for me, I'm thinking of it like, man, I wish that there was somebody out there like me sharing this information when I was growing up, so that I could have avoided a lot of the mistakes, aligned myself with some successful people, and accelerated and streamlined my success even faster, even greater, to be in a better position than what I'm even in now. And this is by no means to try to brag or show off or, anything. Somebody said, oh, you're not very humbling. Whatever. You don't know me. But the simple fact of the matter is, I'm just telling you guys the truth. I'm just sharing with you some information. And speaking of the truth, I got something that I really want to tell you guys, but I don't know if I can, especially on this platform. But it has a lot to do with government money, funding, and what's going on with this whole FTX situation, especially how it's connected and intertwined with Ukraine and other countries. And going back on what I was telling you guys about in my previous video of how the government creates these solutions where they can pour money into them, but they need to build a problem to enact the solution so that they can release the money. Now, the crazy part about this is, if you think about it, think about this, okay? Hear me out. Pandemic. COVID's a nightmare, okay? It's ruining lives. Can't go to work. Government decides, we're going to release stimulus checks to everybody. We're going to release multiple stimulus checks to everybody. And then we're going to release checks to businesses through paycheck protections that they don't have to pay back. It's just free money. Then we're going to issue SBA loans at pretty much no interest for 30 years. Millions, billions, trillions of dollars distributed. They didn't do it out of the goodness of their heart. They did it because they own businesses. They did it because they had ways of funneling the money back to them. They couldn't just cut themselves a check. They couldn't just cut the check, okay? They needed a vehicle. Now, granted, with that, some other people will see some benefits and some wins from it. But by and large, the folks that created this idea of, hey, I got a good way to shell out a few $1 trillion if somebody can just come up with a good problem for me to throw it at. Plain it, like, end of story, done deal. Then after that's kind of like fizzled out, and the people who didn't get what they really wanted, we can't keep doing this, folks. We can't keep doing this. So instead of immediately pushing through stimulus, they sit and they muddle around with it for months, stringing folks along, making them believe and think that there was another stimulus check coming, when odds are it was never going to happen, is never going to happen, odds are. And they continuously have these discussions and meetings and proposals and pushes and including them in bills and packages. Okay. Meanwhile, Ukraine gets attacked by Russia. And then immediately, through no real voting, no real consideration or anything like that, you look back today, we done sent like almost $100 billion to Ukraine. And who voted for that? Who voted for that? Who approved that? Biden, in his infinite wisdom, can't figure out a baby's formula shortage solution fast enough, although he did. But that's a whole nother story. I don't even want to get into that one. Can't figure out this diesel shortage problem. Can't figure out this gas price problem. Can't figure out this inflation problem. Cannot figure it out, right? But what does he do? he enacts and signs these executive orders and just sends billions and billions and billions of dollars to Ukraine. He sends our fuel to the UK. He's down in Haiti. Like, who's voting for this stuff? So when we need something, it's like, oh no, we got to have these meetings. We got to push these packages. We're one vote off. We didn't get it approved. We're trying to get it through. We're trying to push it through. Meanwhile, on the flip side, whenever he wants what he wants, he just signs an executive order and it's a done deal. Well, then if you think about it from that standpoint, it's like, well, he can't get the money directly. It'd be too obvious. But I'm gonna just put it like this. There's some very simple and easy vehicles to push the funds through with the appearance of an aid package for Ukraine. But if you really dig deep and really start to look at the businesses and the companies that are getting these contracts and accepting these funds and what they're supposed to be doing, they're U.S. companies. You see what I'm saying? They're U.S. companies. I've even personally myself been in the middle of it, which is why I say I want to tell you guys something, but I can't because, again, we're being monitored, we're being watched, we're being censored. But I can tell you guys some stories that really make your head spin. Make your head spin with the Department of Defense. I'll just leave it at that. Now, with that being said, what's going on with this country, with our tax dollars, with our savings, our income, this whole inflation thing, it's also going to be driven up by, consumer ability. The lower income, middle class folks are about to get crushed. They're about to get wiped out. Because although the CPI numbers may come down, which I'm be real interested to see how they play this one off, because if the CPI numbers come down and the gas prices and the prices of oil go up, thus making everything we buy and everything we do more expensive, and they don't report that on the CPI reports, then something fishy is going on. But at the end of the day, they're lining their own pockets, okay? And much like the NFL teams, the major league teams, the professional teams out there, and even some of these collegiate teams, they got their own thing going on. Everybody's trying to win their own game, okay? Now, I'm not saying that you should worship money. I'm not saying that you should only care about money. I'm not saying that that should be all that matters. But what I am saying is that you may want to look out for number one first, from a standpoint of having money available to pay rent, pay your mortgage, buy food and groceries and necessities, water, keep a roof over your head, pay your light bill, pay your heat bill. You want to take care of number one first, okay? Maybe have a little bit of money to go out and have a good time, take a vacation, treat the family to a dinner and a movie or something. Not just be broke, not just work to be poor, and win that game, because they're playing a much bigger game against you that you're not involved in. But, there are some ancillary players out there that can win on their own, and we can utilize what we have available to us, being the economy, and putting the economy to work for us instead of working for the economy, so that we don't wind up in a situation where we're in that 10,000 employee group from Amazon that just got notice that they're getting laid off, and we don't have a plan. We don't know what we're going to do. We're dead broke. We don't have a backup plan. All we can hope for is a severance package and unemployment insurance benefits, which we know ain't worth it. We know it's not worth it. So you got to have a plan. So much like the young adult that has reached out to me as a fast food worker, trying to figure out that plan right now and today, hats off to you. You are making a smart move. You are doing the right things. And you don't have to. You got to think about it. If you think about millionaires, the wealthy, billionaires, they didn't do it by working a job. They did it by being smart and investing their money and having multiple streams of income. So, and I've seen it before. I've not necessarily exactly working at a fast food restaurant, but I've seen people out there that make modest incomes. I'm talking like $50,000 a year, but they're extremely wealthy because they've put the money to work for them. They've put the economy to work for them to put them in a position of wealth. And they are really tight with their budgets. They're really smart with their spending. They're spending and their spending of expenses are assets. Their expenses produce profits, cash flow producing assets. If you don't know what I mean, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go check out Ty Lopez and he'll explain it to you. But basically, you're taking what was once an expense and turning it into an asset and a cash flow producing asset that generates profit. And that's the difference. You don't have to be a superstar. You don't have to be an athlete, a star athlete, a professional athlete. You don't have to be a celebrity. You don't have to, somehow, be discovered to be wealthy. And even if wealthy is not your intent, then it's even easier to be okay. It's even easier to be not living paycheck to paycheck. And that's the struggle. If you're living paycheck to paycheck now and you don't have a reasonable plan and preparation for a solution and a strategy to get out of that rat race circle of chasing your tail, robbing Peter to pay Paul, it's only going to get worse, especially as we continue through this year, start 2023. We see where interest rates go. We see where rent prices go. We see where the prices of every good and service goes as oil becomes more expensive, since OPEC is literally bending us over the barrel as we speak. Mark my words. Like I said, I'm not a fortune teller. I don't have a crystal ball, but I do pay attention to what's going on. And I'm sharing that with you guys. And hopefully you guys can use this to your advantage so you don't get wiped out and crushed by what's coming, the wave that's coming. You guys take care. Be safe. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.